Hey, welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we have a special guest with ElitWeb3. If you don't know him, his name is Harley, big in the XDC community, and it's a pleasure to have him on the podcast. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing great. Market's finally getting fun again. I mean, Bitcoin's approaching its all-time high. People are starting to come back out of hibernation. It's starting to get fun again.
Yeah, right back here. Peak. I wouldn't say peak euphoria yet. We're definitely back in the greed side of things. But that's what you like to see. All of the. Seems like we're starting to get a rotation into the altcoins. Seeing some stuff that's up 30-40% on the 24-hour. Meme stuff. Pepe is like 5x off the bottom. So, be excited when we get to the utility side of things, and I think you will too. So give us a little background on you, how you got into the space, and then what you do at ElitWeb3.
Yeah, of course. So essentially, I come from a healthcare background. I worked at the VA for 7 years. I was helping veterans. My father was a veteran. Essentially, COVID hit. I was already in the crypto space. I've been in it since 2017, and it was time for a shift. I was already working as a community manager for a project on the Stellar network, and I end up meeting some of my partners now, Johnny, Amin, Sammy, and essentially we all had a vision to pay people to work out, which we ended up turning into one of our whitelist applications. It's called BlockFit. It's a move to earn application, uses wearable technology, and you get paid to work out. And from there, kind of turn into ElitWeb3, which is a Web3 software development agency.
Very cool, man. Yeah, so that's a huge deal, right? Rewarding people or incentivizing people to do certain activities. I think the whole premise behind Web3 is you own your own data, and you'll be able to sell that for whatever it might be. Because right now it just gets taken from you. Nobody really gets to keep their own data. You sign away all your rights when you click the little one square and at the beginning when you use a website or an application or a platform. But in the future, I'm hopeful that, as Web3 actually is integrated with Web2 and people have digital wallets and digital identities, they'll have the capability to kind of retain some of that data. And then to your point, I think you'll see an explosion in what you like. The people that I talk to and that are here right now are still light years ahead of everybody else that's in the general population. They're still in the early adopter phase. And so the things that are being developed now on these public networks, I think will, as people migrate to more efficient systems and protocols. So on that topic, like, do you primarily look at XDC? I know that's kind of how we got connected. Or where are you looking to develop these applications for your business?
Yeah, so essentially, like you mentioned, meme coins are going crazy right now. We're still in that speculation stage. We haven't quite hit utility, and honestly, it's probably going to take regulations to come into place before we get to that point. But yeah, we primarily build on the XDC network. We are chain agnostic. We have white label solutions, and we want to help businesses make that transition from Web 2 onto Web 3. We have our platform Circularity Finance that we built. That's low code and no code solutions to help businesses and nonprofits make that transition. And the last couple of years, that's really been my focus point, is the nonprofits, is on the education and the onboarding for these nonprofits to help them make that transition. Because a lot of them, they really don't have a technical team behind them. A lot of them, they don't have the funding for that. A lot of them are just, especially the ones that are actually making an impact and doing what you're saying to do. And that's essentially why it's so important to have a programmable donation invoicing application like the one Circularity Finance. So essentially, it's a transparent way, and it's kind of a accounting tool. The way I like to look at NFTs is they're pretty much receipts on the blockchain. I mean, you can go on there, you can see it, it's immutable, and it's there. So we went ahead and created what we call our proof of donations NFTs. So essentially, every time you make a donation, it mints out an NFT. So you can go ahead and have that for your taxes to be able to show. We have analytic tools so that way you can keep track of all the donations. And on the nonprofit side, we have a KYN, which is kind of like KYC for the nonprofits, where we go ahead and we have to collect the 501c3 information. We have to make sure everything's vetted, make sure they're actually legit. They have a website and they have an EIN number. And then from there, once they're approved, they can go ahead and set up a smart contract for a programmable donation. How that works is essentially there is a parent wallet, which you can go ahead and put a .xdc address, and you can go ahead and have that as the main wallet. So whenever anybody goes through the platform to make a donation, it goes to this parent address, and then in the smart contract wizard, they can go ahead and set up the children addresses. So let's say they want 20% to go to overhead, 20% to go to salaries, and then the additional 60% to go to whatever their impact is. They can go ahead and set that up in a smart contract wizard, and they can go back into that admin panel and change that at any time.
The NFT application for nonprofits is huge. So just for people that don't know, normally you would take donations and they would just go into your regular account. With an NFT, like he mentioned, you can segregate out where funds go. So auditing a nonprofit becomes, I don't want to say a nightmare, but cumbersome when you have all of that money going into one account at one time. But these donations, when they're segregated out, it makes it super easy to remain within compliance and make sure that your nonprofit is using the funds the way that they're supposed to, right? And so that's auditable. You can see it on the blockchain. So, let's say you do want to make a donation to a nonprofit through an NFT or with, digital assets, and you receive that NFT on the other side. You can use that as your receipt to write off against the taxes for your donation, and you know exactly where those funds went. So they're being spent on what you wanted and not necessarily just, going straight to people's pockets.
Exactly. And the best part about it is you don't even have to cash out and incur capital gains. We're here early. We're going to make a lot of money. It's not about what you make. It's about what you give back, what you can do with the funds you're making. So to be able to put your funds and see where it's going, these are dynamic NFTs on this proof of donation NFT. So as the nonprofit's actually making an impact, they can go in, update the metadata, and then from there, they can update with pictures, videos of what they're actually doing. And they can actually use this NFT to gate their community. That way, only people with this NFT can have access to smart contract gated content.
That's great. So you're working with, I would say, public and private foundations and charities at this point. So if you are going to make a donation in kind, in crypto, you're still limited to a certain percentage of your income each year for each one of those, right? So if it's in cash, you can do up to 60% of your income as a donation to a public charity, but I believe you're limited to 30% when it comes to in-kind donations. So do you see any frictions there? Like if people do want to exchange their crypto for the NFT and make that donation in kind, does that limit people's ability to donate? Or do you think that they'll put regulation in where you're able to swap for like stable coins? Or maybe they'll designate some of these, cryptos as currencies, and then it'll be applicable up to 60%.
I mean, it really depends on the jurisdiction, because right now regulations are so gray area. There really isn't any except for like in Wyoming, at least in the States. Other nations and countries, they are more open. But yeah, even in the States, we've run into certain things when it comes to nonprofits. Like we were working with one out of Chicago, and in Illinois, they've had to, anytime you make a donation, you have to KYC. And it's the same thing with political figures. If you're donating to a politician, of course, they don't want the money coming in from North Korea or wherever. So obviously, we've had to go back a couple of times to make revisions to the protocol because there is a lot of jurisdictional stuff that we have to comply with.
Yeah. Well, anytime you're moving money or donations or anything to do with financial products and stuff, there's going to be oversight, right? Um, on the KYC side of things, are you using Chainalysis to verify the wallet addresses that are participating and run them for OFAC before they're able to submit a donation?
Currently, we use a third-party software called Verif.
Okay.
So we use Verif for the KYC and for the KYN for the nonprofits. We are creating our own registry for decentralized identities on our platform, Circularity Finance. So that is in the process of being made right now. And we're also working with Civic as well.
Very good. Yeah, Civic Pass. We reached out to them on a different application. No, that's cool. That's cool, man. This is a huge use case that I think people just don't comprehend yet. I went to an NFT conference a couple years ago, and the gentleman was selling watches. You get a watch with your donation, basically. So it'd cover the cost of the watch, and then you could see, exactly where the money went. And that's really when I became aware of like this use case and why it was so valuable for parsing out where the money goes and having that visibility for the audit on a nonprofit. So, what else are you guys looking at? So, CiFi, I've seen a lot of stuff about y'all's product here recently on Twitter. Can you give people, is it just the nonprofits? Are there other applications? Is it a DeFi protocol? What's the vision for the future?
Yeah, definitely. So with Circularity Finance, of course, I'm pretty much in charge of the donation side, but there are multiple other modules on it. It's not primarily a donation platform. So the main one is our microeconomy tool. Essentially, it has all the tools needed for SMEs or for nonprofits to go ahead and make the transition with like low code, no code items, so they can go ahead and launch their own NFT collection. They can launch their own token. They can go ahead and set up emissions for it, the tokenomics. It has all the tools needed to go ahead and get your start in if you don't want custom development. Now, if you do want custom development, we do have ElitWeb3 Solutions, which is our software development agency. But we also have a DAO Genesis tool where you have governance. You can go in there, you can make proposals, you can set up the governors, you can go ahead and set up who gets voting right. The governors, of course, would be able to make the proposals, and then whoever has voting rights, whether they have stake in an NFT or a token for their role, they can go ahead and make proposals, or they can go ahead and vote. We also have a corporate wellness module that we are putting out so that any of these businesses that are coming on, they'll have the chance to go ahead and have a better option to keep their employees healthy, because healthy employees, of course, work better, and it cuts down the costs of a lot of stuff, including health insurance and stuff of that nature. And
yeah, so are you integrated with any insurance providers that you can report that data to be able to, like, remove some of the costs associated with the insurance for the business owners as a value add?
Not currently, but we are in the process of connecting with insurance providers to go ahead and mitigate risk.
Yeah, it's another huge application, right? If you're able to incentivize people to work out and they stay healthy and you can monitor their vitals, you can verify risk associated with insuring those people, and the insurance companies love that.
Oh yeah, it all comes to data. If you can go ahead and have like a wearable device, like a smartwatch, it can connect to an IoT. It pretty much is an IoT device. It can connect to an Oracle, and then from that way you can get that data off chain, from real world data onto the blockchain. So you can go ahead and hit smart contracts, conditional based smart contracts, so that once conditions are hit, it may dispense a token. Once conditions are hit, it could do this. It's a lot of if or that.
Yeah, kind of if-then statements, if people are familiar with, if you ever took computer science, I have a very basic understanding of computer science. I'm not the coder, I understand the capabilities of the technology and what, how they can be used. And I'm kind of the middle person where I can have the conversations with the developers and have enough understanding to, see what they need to do and how it might need to be done. And then I can also communicate, like, and you probably find yourself in this position. You can have a conversation with the business owners and explain to them the applications and the efficiencies that this technology can provide, and then go back and deal with your team and make sure that you actually build it out and it's a good product.
I think you need a mix of both, really. I mean, I can execute some smart contracts. I can code a little bit, but I've really became proficient at being able to read the code, especially after doing a whole bunch of beta tests and stuff. You just start learning how to read the code, which I think is really important, because if you're in this space, you're going to be dealing with a lot of smart contracts. You got to at least be able to read what you're signing, because you could be signing anything. You could be draining your whole account. I've seen it happen numerous times, and it's like whenever this stuff gets exciting, that's when the scammers come out to play, because there's a lot more money in the space. So for anybody that's coming into a space, it's really important to be aware of what you're interacting with, and make sure to go ahead, of course, to write your seed phrases down, not to give them to anybody. I think we see it as the basics, but a lot of people, they just get in, they really, and we've all been in that spot. We've all been new to it at one point. So I think being in this for another run, especially if you're a veteran at this, I think it's our responsibility really to help set the standards and to educate those that are coming into space after us.
Yeah, I would agree. And there'll be a whole nother wave of people. Now that Bitcoin's back to all-time high. I don't know if we got all the way back there. We're really close.
We're doing
market cap. Yeah, that's the market cap. Hit all-time high market cap the other day. There's some more Bitcoin that have been on the market since then, right? So price not quite there. Yeah, I agree with you. If you can help somebody else and educate them, I think the whole paradigm is going to shift here. Maybe in the next 12. Well, I know in the next 12 months it's going to shift, because institutions are going to be capable of holding these digital assets. You've already got digital wallets that have been rolled out at the majority of banks. You got Citi, Chase, Bank of America. Your bank account there is a digital wallet at this point, and they've set it up so they can integrate with custody providers like Medico. They have a product called Harmonize, which really, similar to yourself, builds out governance around payment flows, and how things move, who has to verify or authenticate certain payments, if there's multiple signers that are required over a certain threshold for different things. And then it's programmatic, right? And that's the other benefit here. You don't have people manipulating transactions or causing problems. You don't have people re-entering data, it's pulled from one place to another using the Oracle. Which, out of curiosity, which Oracle do you guys use primarily? You looking at plugin, or y'all primarily use Chainlink?
Yeah, so we use plugin. We actually have partnership with them. From what I see, it doesn't make sense to use Chainlink if you're a business on blockchain, because you have to pay gas, you have to pay a transaction fee for every instance you run. So that really limits what you're able to do and what information you're able to bring on chain. If, let's say, every minute or every 5 minutes you're having to pay a gas transaction, which could be anywhere from $10 on Ethereum on a good day to right now, whenever it's congested and gas is crazy, you're looking more like $50 to $75 a transaction, which is unsustainable for a business. And if you come onto XDC, it's fractions of a penny. And of course, they got a great team over there at Go Plugin, so we really like what they're doing. And yeah, we see them as a better option, especially if you're building on the XDC network, to go ahead and use the Oracle that's already integrated with XDC.
Yeah, I would agree. I get to meet with Atul Attach tomorrow here in Dubai. For those that don't know, those are the co-founders of xinfin and XDC's network. So trade finance is at the forefront of what we're doing, incentivizing trade and strategic investment between the U.S. and the UAE for the alliance that I sit on. So pretty cool, man. It's good to see people starting to comprehend like what this network is capable of and how big it's going to be. And there's not going to be one to rule them all. They need to be interoperable. But I mean, if you can create efficiencies like you're talking about with an Oracle and enterprise applications, Chainlink obviously has a head start, and a lot of the things that have been built out have been using, the EVM, either on Ethereum or Solana, and so those are public chains, and Polygon and Matic also. There's been a lot there. They'll actually be here tomorrow as well. So, I think they're starting to see the light and the way that things are moving, and you're always going to have first movers, right? If you had like Ask Jeeves, other things that were before Google, okay, as an example, that people used to use, and then over time you migrate to the thing that's the most efficient. And so that's the way I kind of see digital assets and blockchain, smart contracts, Web3. People are starting with, you pioneer stuff and it's always got problems, and then people iterate on top of that and they come back with better solutions, and over time people will migrate to the cheapest, fastest, easiest solution, which XDC is definitely one of the.
Yeah, so essentially that's kind of where we came to figure out too. Essentially, you have generational zero technology, which you would pretty much classify Bitcoin under that, and generational one to be like the Ethereums. And now we're starting to get on to the next generation, which is these utility tokens like XRP, XDC, XLF, HBAR, Algo. There's multiple other ones, of course, but those are pretty much the main ones. And I agree, interoperability is going to be huge. A lot of these networks, they have their niche areas. They're not everything's going to be done on one. So I'm excited to see the interoperability coming in, not just with blockchains, but also with data. I mean, especially when you're integrating new technology like AI, quantum, like we're at a point where technology is progressing at a speed never before seen, and it's not stopping. So either businesses have to keep up with it, and which is hard because a lot of businesses don't want to be the first mover. They'd rather be the second or third. That way, it gives them time to see what's happening, especially when it's something this early. But I do believe that businesses and entrepreneurs who go ahead and take advantage of the opportunities, I think they're going to be well off for being early. I think they're going to be rewarded. I think there's definitely communities that can form with the OGs in the space. And yeah, the name of the game when it comes to this is community. If we didn't have, I mean, of course the technology is important, but the community is just as important.
Yeah, I think the people, and that's with anything, when we look at strategic investment in a company, if it's a startup or Series A or whatever round they're raising for through the family office, we're always evaluating the team. And you can invest in a technology and an idea, but it's really the people they're going to be able to deliver on that. And that's really who you're making the investment is do I believe this person can actually execute on their vision? And so, building a community of people. So we have the mastermind group, I don't know how much Max told you about that, but we have all these wonderful people that have different perspectives and maybe even different biases that come together and have conversation. And through that, you're able to really discern what the best path forward is, because there's other people that have experiences that you might not, and they can bring that to the forefront and go, okay, well, this is how this could go wrong because I've had it happen before. And so like you talked about with the OGs, like if you've been in this space and you've made the mistakes, the people that are coming in now, if you can become part of a community that already has all these people in it, you're gonna skip all those potholes. You're not gonna.
That's what it comes down to. It's about shortening the timeline for success. You don't want a whole bunch of yes men in there that just agree with everything. You want people that will be able to evaluate what you're doing and keep you in check. People that have the same vision as you, because in the end, we're tribalistic. I mean, we're supposed to be in tribes. Like we're supposed to want to be a team. We're supposed to want to collaborate. We've gotten away from that recently. It's been more about competition than collaboration. I think with these decentralized technologies, I think we're kind of getting back to a golden era where it's going to be more about working together because honestly, we're all so early in this technology and we're all going to win. I mean, and it's all about ushering in the next generation and making new technology because the systems weren't in place for us whenever we were younger. So we got to make sure to usher it in and have the right systems in for the next generation. I mean, I got kids. I want my kids to be able to have a better system, better opportunities. I want them to have a pathway to succeed.
Yeah, same. My boy, he's young. He's starting to get it, but I talk about it like we're going from a zero-sum game to everybody wins. Aligned incentives. I don't like dealing with people that where somebody wins and somebody loses. I always look for what's the solution where everybody walks away from the table feeling like they got one over on the other person. So if you can always position it where, excuse me, if you can position it where the other person has to win for you to win, that's when you can align incentives. And with these networks, if you're all stakeholders, really, right? So even if you have this company and this company, if they're using the same network, the token that they're holding to move those transactions, let's say they're even in competition. Let's say they're both payment processors and they're both using the XRPO. Just as it, let's say it's RippleNet versus R3. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. So they have aligned incentives. If they're both going to use that underlying network, that it succeeds. It doesn't matter who gets more adoption than who, because they both have a large allocation to whatever the asset is they're using to settle and incentives in the same network. So that's what I see taking place. You're going to have people that migrate to whatever the most useful network is for their niche and application. You're going to have people that come in there that normally would have fought one another, right? You might have like a Verizon versus AT&T, but in reality, like they work with one another, they price set, they do all the things that they need to do to make sure that there's healthy competition, but at the same time, they're trying to help one another, right? And that's really what this is going to come down to for people that are building these businesses and tying into the blockchain and using this technology. Is you all have aligned incentives, because if the underlying network is successful and you have an allocation to that token, then you're going to be successful also, because there's more volume, more price.
Yeah, there's ways to be mutually beneficial on all fronts. And I think as we start getting further into these narratives, whether it be tokenization of real world assets, which is huge right now, there's going to be a lot of liquidity coming from that. There's going to be a lot of opportunities when it comes to RWAs. Then you also got like the gaming narrative with play to earn games, which is going to be huge for the next generation, because it gives them a chance to play video games and actually be able to own their avatars, own their weapons, own their skins, own their digital collectibles, and it won't be centralized anymore. And then you also got there's a lot of different narratives coming. You got the AI coming in, which is incredible to see what they're coming out with. It seems like on a weekly basis, new innovations with AI is coming out, which is a little bit scary. But at the same time, if you know how to utilize it, it benefits you. It definitely has made a lot of impact in my life, being able to have a personal assistant like ChatGPT.
Yeah, well, I don't think it'll ever, there will be displacement of jobs, as things become automated, but you can use it to augment your capability, right? Like instead of taking all the time to draft legal documents or spin up posts or, create scripts for YouTube or, whatever you can do to use a word processor, you can get 10 times as much done. And so, if you're a paralegal, if you are a screenwriter, anybody that's using creative thought to write things down or even code, right? Like I'm sure you guys have used ChatGPT in that capacity also. You're like, hey, write an application in Python that will execute and do this, right? And then you have to understand how to go back and verify it and check it and make sure that it's good. But it saves you at least, 30 minutes or an hour of typing out the original code base or the framework that you would have needed. So that's the power, and how I use it currently is I just use it to basically fast track the base of whatever I was going to get anyway, and then iterate on top of that and make changes as necessary. Um,
All
but
comes down to Yeah, it comes down to efficiency, being able to scale. I mean, being able to use blockchain definitely can scale your business to a wider audience and be able to bring in tools that you wouldn't necessarily have, whether it be loyalty tokens, whether it be better accounting. There's definitely multiple ways that it can really make a business be able to scale to a larger audience and be more efficient. But then when you integrate AI in there, it gets even crazier what could be possible. So yeah, I definitely see this technology revolution being great for creatives, because it allows you to be able to be creative, to be able to bring your ideas and manifest them into reality at a faster rate than ever before.
100%. Well, I've really enjoyed this, man. I love your perspective. I think we are right here on the precipice of, the exponential move with Moore's law and the progression of technology. Um, I guess, who would you want to reach with this? Like, who do you want to resonate with, and then how can those people find you?
Yeah, definitely. So essentially, I want to connect with anybody who wants to build, who has an idea that may not be able to codify it. We can help go ahead and codify your ideas and bring them to reality. We can help you run your very first pilot, which is essentially a proof of concept. So you can go ahead and be able to show that it's successful. A lot of people think that it's out of reach, which good coding isn't cheap. But we do have financing plans where you can put 20% down, 20% at the first demo, and then the rest at the MVP. And we also have MVP rent, where you can go ahead and rent it on a monthly basis. And we just want to make it more easy for people to go ahead and build and be a part of this digital revolution. So you can definitely find me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it now. My handle is at Glowjita, and that's with a 0, GL0Jita. And yeah, I'm definitely excited for where it's going. I mean, we met at Consensus last year. We also met at Austin. It seems like we're meeting in Austin. Every time I'm in Austin, you seem to be there. So on XDC as well. So I'm sure I'll be seeing you in Austin, Texas for Consensus again. And anybody that wants to connect, feel free to reach out. I'm available. I'm a real person. I'm not AI. So excited for the future. I really appreciate you letting me use your platform. And I'm definitely looking forward to collaborating again and seeing what we can do together.
Absolutely, brother. Yeah, I think that there's, I want to have people on here that are really doing things in the space and are progressive and have people's best interests at heart. And I think you're aligned with all of that for sure. Excited for Consensus this year. It'll be the last week of May down in Austin, Texas, for those that don't know. It's a huge conference where, it was more professional last year than it has been in the past. I was impressed with the turnout. Again, we were in the middle of the bear market last year. I think we'll probably have a lot more crazy that shows up this year at Consensus versus last year. But it was nice and refreshing to see the people that were there, still hanging out, understanding the long-term vision for the technology. I think that's who was there last year, were the people that were the builders, that had stuck it through in the bear market. So it's nice to see some of your fruits coming to bear, for what you've been building. And yeah, if you guys have ideas, it sounds like Harley's your guy, and he can make sure that you're able to actually build out what you're looking for, and then take that to an enterprise solution and make some money with it. We're here to provide value and exchange value for compensation, right? So and do good with it. Then you can put it back in. You can use it through a nonprofit. I've got some nonprofits in my network that I would love to connect you with that I think could use, the smart contract capability that you guys have built out to really further their business and agenda. So I'll make those connections for you. But just really appreciate your time this evening, and look forward to doing this again sometime soon.
Of course. Thank you so much, Jake. You have a blessed one.